What if I told you that some of the most dangerous criminals in America aren't the ones you'd expect? What if I told you that the gentler sex that society claims women to be are capable of brutal, calculated violence, things that would make your skin crawl? I'm about to show you the side of women's prisons that will change everything you thought you knew about crime, punishment, and survival. This isn't a story of rehabilitation. It's a story of power, manipulation, and a system that can't seem to break free from its own grip. There's this stereotype, right? That women are the gentler sex, the ones who are softer, more nurturing. Society has conditioned us to believe that. But when you step into places like the Rockville Correctional Facility and the Indiana Women's Prison, you quickly realize that this narrative is far from the truth. These are prisons where some of the most dangerous women in America are housed. We're talking about over 1,800 women serving long sentences for brutal, violent crimes. Some of these women will spend the rest of their lives here. So, let's get real. What would it be like to be inside a place like this? And how would you feel about the women inside? Would you still think of them as gentle? One woman in particular completely shattered any of my preconceived notions. Her name is Sarah Pender, and she's a convicted double murderer. But here's the twist. She's not just a murderer. She did something that left the entire prison system red-faced. She escaped. That's right, she escaped from a maximum security prison. I mean, you don't hear about this kind of stuff happening every day, right? Especially not in women's prisons. How did she manage it? Well, Sarah didn't escape on her own. She had help. And not from another inmate. She had help from a prison guard. This wasn't some desperate plan to just break free. No, Sarah had something else in mind: manipulation. She played on the guard's emotions, made him believe she was his way out. And guess what? The guard, he fell for it. Hard. I mean, think about it. This wasn't just a quick getaway. Sarah stayed on the run for 4 months. 4 months as America's most wanted woman, running circles around the law. Can you imagine the audacity, the skill it took to pull something like that off? But while Sarah's escape is shocking, what really gets me is the reason behind it. This isn't just a story about a woman breaking free from prison. It's a story about manipulation, survival, and the darkness that can lurk inside anyone, especially those pushed to the edge. But Sarah's story is only one piece of the puzzle. There are others, too. Women like Addie, who's been in prison since 2006. She's just 25 now, but she was sentenced at 18 for armed robbery. And let me tell you, Addie isn't some typical criminal who just took a wrong turn. She's smart, like really smart. But she couldn't keep her rage under control, and that led her down a path that ended in prison. She tells me that her crime, a robbery where she and some friends attacked 3 people and stole a measly $300, wasn't worth the years it cost her. All that time, gone. For what, a few $100? She regrets it deeply. Addie has 2 young daughters now, and that's what keeps her fighting to change. Her kids are her motivation to get out, be better, and try to break the cycle of crime that's been in her family for generations. But you have to wonder, doesn't that make you ask the question, can people really change? And if they do, is it enough? Addie's been inside for almost 2 decades. She has regrets. She's trying to make something of herself in here. But can she undo all the damage that's been done? Will she ever be able to escape the life she's left behind? And that's not the only question I'm left with. This prison, these women, they're not what you expect. Sure, some of them are hardened criminals, but many of them, like Addie, are just people who made terrible mistakes when they were too young to understand the consequences. Yet, they're still here, trying to claw their way back from the edge. Take another woman I spoke with, someone who's also been caught up in this web of violence, anger, and regret. She's only 28, and she's been battling an addiction since she was 17. She's had 4 kids, but her addiction has taken everything from her. She's been in and out of prison, trying to break free of the cycle, but it's so hard. And every time she gets a little bit of hope, Something pulls her back in. This woman, she's not the monster you'd expect. Sure, she made terrible choices, but at her core, she's just trying to survive, trying to do right by her kids. She's trying to find a way out of this hellhole, but it's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. And that's where we're at. These women, they're not just numbers in a prison system. They're real people with stories that you'd never expect. They're survivors, in ways you can't even imagine. But there's something darker here, too. Something that keeps them stuck in this life, despite everything they're trying to do to change. And I'll tell you what, this is the part that's hardest to swallow. If these women can't escape the grip of the system, then what hope do the rest of us have? What does that say about the world we live in, where survival means becoming someone you never thought you could be? There's a question that keeps nagging at me. If you're pushed into a corner long enough, if the world around you is nothing but struggle, what kind of person would you become? What kind of choices would you make? And how would you live with the consequences? I've been thinking a lot about that since I met these women. And I'll tell you this, after hearing their stories, it's hard to think of them as just criminals, because they're more than that. They're human beings who were broken, made mistakes, and now they're just trying to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. But the real question is, can they ever truly escape? This is just the beginning. Because while Sarah's escape might have been a one-time thing, the stories of these women will haunt me for a long time. They're trapped, not just in these walls, but in the choices that led them here. And maybe, just maybe, the hardest part of all is knowing that for some, there's no way out. Not just from the prison, but from themselves.